Teary-eyed I have become. Through my body feelings run. Turquoise molar, wrapped in purple tongue. Violet and indigo through the air have spun. Blotchy ripples, shudders too. Pink and her leaving before I was through. They came to join me left and right. I couldn't hear the sounds of night. Warm and pleased, I sit here still. It was not about the thrill. Daniel shows the earthly. Ezekiel shows the heavenly. The box is set and filled. The tree of life can be showed as having 19 letters instead of 22, or some variation up to 30. The clip-off are shown as layers, and one might say that the kleput would have names, at least in Hebrew, if not in the biblical Aramaic. The biblical language was called Aramaic. And yes, different dialects were seen in different parts. We see mention of some other things from the Solomonic temple employed for the initiates. The brazen sea, the incense altar. I would say that maybe Aleister Crowley didn't misassociate some things, but formed different attributes with them. But he did get the lettering right according to tradition when he put things together. We see diagrams of the mystical putting the things together, and I would look at that and think to myself, well, there's a lot of stuff that can be gleaned or redirected ritually in this book alone. So I don't know how many years I'm going to be coming up with new rituals and stuff based around this book. Different offices, degrees, and people working together to do the same ritual, put the pieces together in a different way. The Enochian Tablet of Union is a very important thing in the work. The Rose Cross definitely is given a Christian context, and it's used to construct talismans and operate as a reference tool for some of the ritual gestures and such, the hexagram and the pentagram rites and some of the orders. The 17 cube or square swastika, well, the fact that it points left doesn't really make it too different in terms of its meaning. People could say, oh, well, that's the left-hand path and the other one's the right-hand path. And again, that's not a moral distinction. And some of the magical tools are biblical. Some of the teachings and stuff are more of an Asiatic touch, you could say. And the Asiatic touch or stereotype, you could say, is to deny the reality of everything. And in the West would be to affirm the reality of everything. And in the West, you might want to control, and the other you would want to guide. And so you can mix those approaches. Different wands are made. I have not myself made different wands for the particular elements or have different cups, but, at some point I might. Typically, I just consider something as in whatever context that it's being put in. Just like the fact that, it is a Cypher manuscript, there's certain ways of talking in certain groups, certain jargon that you may want to have, not just for recognition, but to give the terms a different context than mundane life. We see that Westcott and Mathers didn't have as much freedom when constructing the Golden Dawn material or rituals as might be thought. But if you're mixing together different things and you want it to be recognizable instead of, or even usable, rather than giving everything new orders and meaning, compilation of what was, sort of before has its purpose. And of course, we see things implied by this symbol on the book too, right? I would agree that something uncommon happened with this manuscript. And whether we're talking spiritual forces or psychological forces, like are employed in what you'd call Mason rituals, because, the ethics, morals, philosophical method, because philosophy really is a method rather than a bunch of quotes, that sort of thing is imparted there. And it would give a balance for any of the side orders that a Mason might be a part of. The OTO, before and after Aleister Crowley, some Rosicrucianism. A person observes, but a person also participates. You don't want to just be a non-player character, as it's called. When you use a system that has been used before and established by more than yourself, you're not judging yourself by yourself alone. And there's a bunch of blinds that in making up your own system, you may not catch. Like in my reading of the Book of Mormon in particular, they transcribed what was supposed to have been their experience. But Joseph Smith writing and saying this stuff to Oliver Cowdery and such, well, the language wasn't always quite right, and the person recording it sometimes had some issue that was missed. It's like, I didn't intend that spelling, or, so some of that stuff was redirected. Let's not limit what is based around what people have previously done. There are spiritual beings out there. There are people that are further along than others. But the states and the stations, well, you can only go through them for yourself, right? So, in some degree, it doesn't matter what group you were a part of, or if you're not part of a group. Give things a context that will temper without abrogation.